Have you ever finished a game or a really good TV show and just kind of sat there staring at the screen like something was taken away from you? That's exactly how I felt after finishing Dispatch. And it got me thinking, why did I feel this way? What about Dispatch created that hole, that emptiness after finishing it? Was it the characters? Was it the visuals? Was it the writing? Was it the fact that I got to control the decisions of the main character? Well, yes, 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 and yes, but I wanted to dive a lot further into those reasons and really explain why Dispatch did so many things so well. I'm gonna try my best to stay away from spoilers. There will be some spoilers in here because there's certain aspects of the game or scenes that I want to talk about, but I'm staying away from any big spoilers for sure. The first thing I want to talk about that really grabbed me was the atmosphere that Dispatch portrays. From chapter 1, right out of the gate, you're a hero that has fallen from grace. You're in a bar and these characters are trying to get under your skin. They're trying to pick at you. It immediately shows a main character in Robert who's kind of down on his luck. And unfortunately, nowadays, that's pretty relatable. A lot of people are going through hard times, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically. For Robert, that was both, the mental fortitude of once being a hero and being injured from the accident that he was in. It portrays a very kind of sad message. He's down on his luck. He doesn't know where to go. He's at a bar getting a drink.
You look like you could use a drink.
What makes you say that?
They were all Skittles colored. I didn't even realize it.
Yeah, well, you know what? They can taste the
It does such a good job of kind of also showing us the universe and showing us Robert's character, which always has a witty quip. It seems that, he always knows what to say. No matter what dialogue option you choose, normally Robert is very well spoken. He thinks before he speaks. He has a good comeback. He's kind of nonchalant and just taking it as it comes sort of thing. And that's immediately a very recognizable and very relatable main character.
Wait, it's coming back to me. Hold on. Yeah, it's coming back to me. You are sunglasses indoors at night guy. Your superpower is that you're able to let everyone know in the room that you're a bag, because you should literally never do that unless you're at the final table of the World Series of Poker, but even then, if you win, you're still a loser.
That is... damn.
You good?
Sorry, I choked on my spit.
And with Robert having these attributes, that makes him a really good character for us, the player, to root for and to, well, play as. And he has such a strong character development and such a strong kind of vibe, personality, I should say, that I found myself almost picking options like, what would Robert do? What would Robert say here, rather than what would I say here? So it's like his characters spoke out and had enough of a personality, enough originality and relatability that I almost found myself playing the game as Robert and less so as me. I think another big selling point of the atmosphere in Dispatch is that it can give us a lot of information and it can give us a lot of feeling without having, sudden movements and jump scares and all that sort of things that games normally do to invoke emotion. When you walk into a scene and the camera kind of zooms out and a song starts playing and you can hear characters in the background, and it just does this really good job of kind of like naturally raising the tension as the conversation flows. You're thinking about, what are my dialogue options going to be? What am I going to say? And then the music intensifies a little bit, and it does a great job of just kind of naturally bringing you up to a point to where you get excited, to where you're involved in the story, you're engaged as a player, right? You're excited for the dialogue option that's going to pop up, or when it pops up, it's surprising. You have to quickly, before the timer runs out, decide which one you want to go, or gut instinct, which one would you pick. With that buildup, it kind of brings the player to a natural state of anticipation, of immersion, of being locked into the game, of what's going to happen next. And I think that's a really cool way of kind of getting us locked in and getting our, blood pressure, getting our heart pumping up for the decisions, even when it's not an intense, super battle-heavy action scene. I think this shows through really well, again, at the beginning of the game. I believe it's episode 2 or 3, where Robert is talking to Invisigal in the kind of like break room, and you have Sonar off in the corner doing his blender and doing all the noises and stuff, right? And while one, that's funny, so it's lightening the mood, but at the same time, if you focus on the music, if you focus on the facial expression of the characters, if you focus on the loud noise that in their sound design obviously made it louder than everything else to impact us as the player as well, to try and get the player annoyed and not just the character Robert, that sort of builds that immersion and that builds that natural anger in Robert, but also in the player with the volume getting extremely loud and annoying, right?
Yeah, well, I guess you should do a better job picking your friends.
What the f?
You can't just go around. Ow! Why does he keep screaming?
His name's Sonar.
Yeah, I know what sonar means.
What's up?
Then why are you asking why he keeps screaming?
She was just explaining your, You know what? Never mind. Good shift.
This guy is weird.
Yeah, he is. Look, I actually just came by to celebrate the mission going well. Didn't mean to interrupt your little snack. What, do you need it pre-chewed like a little baby bird?
Look at me. You disobeyed a direct order. How can you think it went well? You trashed the place. The suspect got away. You got the client hurt. You think when that guy signed up for SD and that it'd result in the back of his getting scorched? Because they don't mention that in the commercials.
First of all, the place was trashed when I got there. Second, I'm sure Granny would take some crisp over losing his arm. As far as the bad guy, happens.
Fact of the matter is that didn't need to happen. We could have had an outcome where the client doesn't get fried and we get the perp if you had just listened to me. You ask for help, then I can... What now? I make the calls, not you.
Here's some advice. You're right at home behind that desk because you're no hero. You were a nerd playing a video game in a suit your daddy built. Now you're a twitchy little turtle without its shell. A real hero puts their on the line. A real hero can't just press a button and make their problems disappear.
The suit isn't what made me a superhero. It was how I did my job that made me Mecha Man. Based on what I saw today, you wouldn't last a day as Mecha Man. Because there isn't a mech suit in the universe that'll keep you from being a selfish
So the game just does a great job with sort of pulling these emotions out of you, pulling out the anger from the noise, maybe, or pulling out comedy, pulling out a laugh, because it's a pretty funny scene that's going on as well. And it's just a testament to how it can do two things at once through its storytelling and through its scenes. I think another really good example of this is at the very beginning of the game, before Robert even gets his job, is when Flambe is walking in and Robert's talking to Waterboy, and that song comes on with the super like pulsating slow motion walk by to try and avoid his gaze. Again, just the sound design and the volume intensified really kind of just brings you into that uneasy feeling and that excitement / anticipation. The game just does a great job of getting what it wants out of you.
Waterboy is how they call me, but yes, I am. Okay. Oh.
I think the second thing I want to talk about is the storytelling, which kind of goes hand in hand with the atmosphere. But one of the biggest things that impressed me in Dispatch that I can't stop talking about is those moments in the game where maybe you just had a bunch of gameplay, you had a really emotional or important cutscene going on, and the game will do these little moments where it kind of zooms out. Not literally speaking, but metaphorically speaking, the game zooms out. And it kind of shows you just a bit of a montage, and a song comes in, and the song is the only audio. There's no audio of the clip, there's no audio of the characters talking. You're just watching a montage, more or less, or a time lapse maybe, of what's happening. And the song comes in. The song always has huge impact. I know if you've played the game, you're probably immediately thinking of the dance scene, right? With the Dispatch song that's going viral. I believe it's called Radio. With that song where all the characters are dancing, it's a really sweet moment. It's kind of sad at the same time because there's just so much emotion going on, and it's the characters like really being themselves and kind of getting together for the first time. So there's a lot of character development in that scene. But I think just the amount of, as I just said, emotion and storytelling that it can provide, even without character dialogue, and us just watching the characters interact with each other, and us just hearing that impactful song going on in the background, is such an impactful way of storytelling. And they don't do it too much. It only happens maybe once a chapter. I think another scene that really shows this is, no spoilers, but kind of right after the big reveal to the party, or right after that kind of thing that Flambe finds out. And Robert's working out in the gym, and he's kind of just by himself, going at it, doing his workout, and it cuts all dialogue, like no characters are talking, he's just by himself, and it's a montage of him working out, cutting between him working out and when he used to be Mecha Man, him fighting that guy in the burning building. And it's, you know, it's cutting between punches, and it's cutting as he's lifting up and down. And by the way, if you actually have the interactive mode on, I believe in that scene and many other scenes similar to these that I'm talking about, it'll actually have you do some like quick time events and stuff. But that's another great way of keeping the player involved. But my original point of just being storytelling, that scene is showing us that Robert is trying to get out of his head. You know, he's trying to just, things are hard right now, I'm gonna go to the gym, I'm gonna get my mind off it, and it keeps coming back. Those memories keep coming back of when he used to be Mecha Man. The suit's not working anymore. They just recently had a setback on the suit not working, and so he's trying to get that out of his mind, but it keeps coming back. Those, like, not bad memories, but those old memories of him being Mecha Man keep coming back. And again, that's a very relatable thing. Not used to be a hero, right? But having something that you can't get back anymore. Having something that you used to have, or someone that you used to have that now isn't a part of your life, that you can't get back. And for him, that's Mecha Man, right? I know we're talking about the same person, but at this point in the game, he can't get that back. You know, another one is right at the beginning of the game, when Robert, I forget if it's chapter 1 or 2, probably 2, but when Robert's just getting ready for work, when he's grabbing his shirt out of the closet, putting it on, he's brushing his teeth, you see Beef in the background, like laying on the ground or something. It's just everyday routine, but somehow it still kind of sends a message of like a, here we go again, back to work sort of vibe, right? Which is something that's, again, not to sound like a broken record, but very relatable. Another point I wanted to make about the storytelling is that the game doesn't hold your hand. Yeah, the gameplay is pretty easy, but when you're talking the storytelling, and you're talking about the choices you've made, the game's not gonna remind you. The game's not gonna like nudge you a certain way to pick the right answer. No, it's a game about remembering what you said, and it's a game about living with your consequences. Living with your choices and the consequences that might come from those choices, right? But the game doesn't hold your hand. You have to live with your choices, which I think is an overall message of the game. If you want to get into some spoiler things later in the game, is to have to live with your choices, right? That's the overall. That's the mini story that a lot of characters have through their character development, is the fact that they have to live with their past choices. Again, I won't get into spoilers, but that's kind of a big aspect and a big message that this game is sending. Another thing I think the game does very well is its pacing. When you're in scenes and it's mainly just talking to people and you're choosing dialogue options, yeah, I'm invested in the conversation, but that doesn't go on for too long. those scenes don't stack up. There's not a lot of them back to back. After a few scenes of talking, it will throw you to maybe a more action-packed scene where there's a lot going on, or it will throw you to gameplay. And then even in gameplay, when you're dispatching your heroes, sometimes there's a hack. Sometimes there's like a free ability that pops up. There's a lot of things that are constantly changing what you're doing, so you're not just doing the same thing over and over, or so you're not just like watching a movie basically and lean back and forget which option to pick. That doesn't really happen because it keeps you engaged by changing up its pacing a lot, which overall sets a really good pacing for just the game and the episodes in general. Speaking of pacing, I want to make a note that the game was episodic and that it didn't release with the full game. And hang on, I know that sounds bad, right? But as everybody knows, Dispatch came out in 4 batches of 2 episodes. Came out with episode 1 and 2, and then next Wednesday, and next Wednesday, and next Wednesday, there was the following episodes all the way up to episode 8. And I think that was actually a really good call. It kept people engaged, right? You played episode 1 and 2, and then you can't wait for episode 3. You're waiting until next Wednesday. It kind of became an event. People were talking about it online. People were looking forward to the next episode. People were talking about what might happen. There was a lot of conspiracy theories. It kind of created a community. And also, with just talking about the game not holding your hand and having to live with your choices, you had to live with your choices for 2 weeks. You had to make a choice, wait 2 weeks to see how that's going to affect. And a lot of the episodes had cliffhangers at the end, right? Which is annoying, but well done. It keeps people engaged. But when I make a choice in episode 3, episode 4 of who I'd like to go with, and then I'm having to wait 2 weeks from now to see the results of that choice, or the impact or blowback or whatever's going to happen, it keeps you engaged, it keeps you wanting, it keeps you coming back. And I think that was a really good way to market this game, is having those 2-week intervals, creating that community, creating that want to come back to the game. The third kind of big topic I wanted to talk about as to why this game appealed to me so much was the characters. The characters in this game are so goddamn lovable. They're so well done. And I think that's partly because of their design. Everybody looks cool. Everybody has a color scheme. Everybody kind of has that like cliche thing going on. A lot of them like the superhero cliche with the fire guy being arrogant and cocky, and then the golem having a deep voice, and they kind of fit their cliches, but it's really well done. And that's the key, right? Nobody cares if it's really well done, which Dispatch obviously did it well. In addition to that, the characters are written well. Obviously, in episode 1 and 2, you see kind of a lot of the surface level, right? You see the overall personality of the character, and you don't dig very deep. Everybody kind of has their personality, everybody has their attitude or whatever, and you're like, all right, these guys are pretty cool. As those characters continue to develop, you see them as like actual characters and actual people, not as just like, oh, that's the flame guy, oh, that's the pop star, right? You start to actually like them and relate to them and kind of root for them in a way as you see their personality grow and their characteristics change. I think a perfect example of this is Invisigal.
Get it.
Obviously, I won't dive into it too much. I feel like a lot of people went down the Invisigal romance, and even if you don't go that way, you can still see her character development.
Hero powers. Strong out there for all to see.
Flying through the sky. Nothing to hide.
What's your point?
I have f***ing villain powers. I can turn invisible and skulk in the shadows. My powers let me steal and watch famous people. Being a villain is my fate. It's in the stars. In the same way that blonde Blazer was always meant to be a hero.
You make your own destiny.
Where'd you get that? Kung Fu Panda?
Liking.
Boomer. I think it's in Trolls 2 also.
All fine films with a fine message.
You've already been a hero, okay? You have no idea what I'm dealing with.
Oh, get out of here. At least you were born with powers. I don't have So according to your dumb theory, I should be an accountant.
You aren't far off.
Fate, destiny, not
having powers, low suppression, none of these things kept me from being a hero before. And they won't keep me from being a hero again.
As Robert takes up that leadership role, and as they can start to see that Robert's caring and that Robert really wants them to get better, they start to trust him more. They start to open up more. And obviously, and especially in Visigal, that she starts to kind of have this respect. Even if she doesn't show it to him, you can definitely see that it's there. And as the episodes progress, that grows more and more, eventually into a relationship if you go in that direction during the game. But it's so cool to see, as I was saying earlier, the character development of having to live with your choices. That's the same thing the characters in Visigal are doing throughout the game. A lot of those characters, as I said, as we know from the game, are ex-villains, have made a lot of bad decisions previously in their lives, and they're kind of here to start over, here for a new chapter. And you don't really see that happening. They don't really take it serious until Robert's leadership really steps up and really kind of shows them that they can change.
Most people will look around this room and see a bunch of villains. Not even the super kind, just plain run-of-the-mill vanilla villains. But that's not what I see. Because lucky for you, I'm not most people. When I look around this room, what I see is pain.
Describes what I'm feeling.
Now, I can't take that pain away. I can't punish all of those that hurt you, but I can teach you how to harness it, to use it, to make something good out of the part of you they didn't get. You're all part of the Phoenix program. Any of you know what a Phoenix is?
Ooh, city in Arizona.
Yeah, the sweltering of America.
Nah, if Florida's the then Louisiana's gotta be the just, position.
The Phoenix,
Sorry.
according to legend, is a beautiful bird of prey that was so tired of its immortality, it tricked the sun god into dropping a spark on its nest to set it ablaze, burning it to. But instead of dying, the Phoenix emerged from ash, reborn. You, every single one of you, are those flaming piles of burnt. You, especially. Now, you can stay piles of like you've been your whole life, or we can turn this thing around. The Phoenix symbolizes redemption. It's what you're here for. It's what connects everyone in this room. To burn up who you were, to become who you were meant to be.
I think another great example of this is actually Flambe, of his attitude, his character taking nothing serious, always being aggressive, always insulting Robert. Small spoilers, as we find out in the game, Robert's the one that put him away. Mecha Man's the one that put him away, and even upon revealing that to the team, he's still able to kind of get over it, if you will, or slowly get over it, as he explains to us how he might have to punch us in the face a few times. But you can see that even he starts forgiving us.
Visigal.
Yeah, so I might have to do that once a month or so as a release of my hatred for you.
All of this rambling brings me back to my main point of why do you feel so empty when you finally finish Dispatch? And I think it's because the game has a really good rhythm. It has suspense, curiosity, it has dread, has reflection, and you kind of are in that rhythm and you get very used to it, and then it suddenly stops, right? You finish episode 8, it's over, that rhythm stops. And I think this is even magnified from the aspect of having it be episodic and coming out every week. And so for 4 weeks straight, you had that Wednesday, you had that hit of Dispatch, you had that hit next Wednesday, and then it stops. That rhythm finally stops. I think your brain starts to get used to that atmosphere, to that tension, to the mystery that Dispatch provides you. And as I said, you have that suspense, that wondering what's going to happen next. What am I going to get to choose? How are my choices going to affect the next episode? You have that kind of curiosity, right? With what is going to happen in the next episode? Did I make the wrong choice? You have that kind of dread, that sense of self-doubt going on. And then it gets to reflection where you finally watch the next episode and you see everything take place, and you see the consequences of your choices. You see the benefits of your choices, and you kind of have that reflection of the game and of the experience, and that's very addicting to get that week in and week out, and to have that curiosity, and then to see what happens based on the choices. It pulls you in. It's very addicting, and that suddenly stopping really hurts. The same thing happened to me, staring at the screen at the end of episode 8, a tear falling from my eye, right? The game actually did make me watery-eyed a couple times, I will admit. But no, the same thing happened to me. I kind of had that sense of, what do I do next? What do I do now? There's no more dispatch. And I think we got really used to that. We got really used to that tension. We got really used to that curiosity. And when they cut us off, when episode 8 ends and we know there's no more coming, you kind of get let down in a way, and you have that feeling of like heaviness over you, and that feeling of a little bit of sadness of just, damn, that was really good. That was really fun. I want more, and there's not going to be more. The relationship we build with the characters too throughout the way, in the character development, as I've stated throughout the video, right? You get invested in that. You start rooting for characters. You start hoping characters can open up a little bit more, hoping they can be what they really want to be, right? You know, you start rooting for Invisigal. You start rooting for Flambe to come back to the team. You get invested in these guys, and it pulls it away from you. And I think this is why it's memorable. It's memorable because it makes you feel something real. It makes you feel a real emotion. What that may be or how it may relate to you is obviously going to be different depending on everybody, depending on what you've gone through in your own life. But I think it kind of takes you out of your own life, and it shows you somebody going through, yes, it's a superhero show, but somebody going through a hard time and a very relatable feeling. And I think that speaks very loudly to a lot of players out there. It takes you out of your own world and kind of puts you in a world that you just don't want to leave. It's like when you finish a really good show and there's no second season, or that it's been canceled or something like that, and that's a hole that drops in your chest. But with any luck, we will get a second season. The game sold, I think, 2 million copies. It's like a week and a half after episode 8 just premiered of when I'm recording this. I think the game's already sold 2 million copies, and everybody that was involved in it so far has said that they loved it. So I hope to God that we get a season 2, because we need it, right? We need it. We want it. Thank you guys if you watched this far. I love this game. I've never made a video like this before, if that isn't painfully obvious. I just really love this game, and I really wanted to ramble about it, and I really wanted to just regurgitate all my thoughts. You guys out there, and see if you felt the same way. See how did you feel at the end of Dispatch, right? Were you staring at your screen like something had been stolen from you, like I was? Please let me know. This was fun to record. I have no clue if I'm gonna do more like this, but I really loved Dispatch, and I needed people to know it. So thank you.